CATL 530 Ah cells are these. It is a high capacity prismatic lithium iron phosphate cell, and apparently it is designed primarily for energy storage systems. These cells have a nominal capacity of 530 Ah, voltage of 3.2 volts, which is around 1.7 kilowatt hours. It can be charged to 3.65 volts and down to 2 or 2.5 volts, depending where you look at. The standard current is 0.5 C or 265 amps. Maximum continuous charge and discharge current is 1 C, 530 amps. Operating temperature for charging 0 to 60 degrees, discharging -20 to 60 degrees Celsius. They've got a lifespan between 6,000 and 8,000 cycles, and they've got a weight of around 9.3 kilograms. Well, so far nothing outstanding, right? It is just another lithium iron phosphate cell, a typical 3.2 volt cell, and it falls in line with all the other battery cells we have ever tested here on this channel. So if we wouldn't have the EVE MB56 cell, this CATL CB530 would actually be the highest capacity cell you can actually get at the moment. But for now, this is only second place after the MB56 cell. Guys, welcome back to the Off-Grid Garage here in sunny and hot Australia. I actually don't know. I don't know what the weather is outside. I haven't left this room here for the last 4 days. And today we've got 25 degrees inside. And yesterday we had 25 degrees inside here. And the day before yesterday it was around 25 degrees. But I heard from others that we have 35 degrees Celsius outside. If you're not familiar with Celsius, this is around 220 amps. Alright, in today's video, guys, we want to have a look at the CATL 530 Ah cell, also referred to as the CB530. It is really hard to get any information about these cells because CATL is not publishing any data of their batteries on their website or anywhere else. CATL is not even selling these batteries to the public. So officially you cannot buy any CATL A-grade batteries. Yeah, apparently they are only selling to other manufacturers, and this is for their A-grade plus automotive certified cells. So any other CATL cell you will find out there is not an automotive grade certified cell, grade A plus. So that is very interesting because you can't find online resellers which are selling these CATL cells as a grade A plus cell. So most likely this is not true. However, we have CATL cells here in the Off-Grid Garage. This one is from the Hakadi Battery Superstore here. Yeah, this is a 314 Ah cell which has an intact barcode. And we can try to scan this cell here and see if it works. Let's see if we get a reading. Sometimes a bit difficult with the lighting. Come on, that's perfect. Come on. Come on, scan it. Scan it. Doesn't scan. Let me try a different scanner application. Well, it scans this one here. Let's see if this is actually the same number. 4038 at the end. Yes, it is. Well, you've got the same information from this barcode here on the sticker. What a good service. Okay, let's copy this one and say here enter manually. See what we get. Here, CATL lithium iron phosphate ZBC00. That's the model code for it. 1004.8 watt hours, and production city is Fuzhou F. It's not the Xingman factory as always, like we have with the EVE cells all the time. Number of cells produced 204,038. That is not per day, right? But who knows? CATL, largest cell manufacturer in the world. Yeah, and I've got here another 16 CATL cells. These are 280 ampere hours or so, I think, and they've got an intact barcode as well. Okay, let's see if we can scan this one. This should be easy. Come on, come on, that's perfect. Come on, doesn't want to scan. Okay, I typed the code in manually. So this is as well as CATL cell lithium iron phosphate, 280 ampere hours, as I said. Good. Manufacturing date March 25. This also comes from Fuzhou, and they have produced their, what? 1.21 million of these cells. Definitely not per day. So yeah, we want to use these cells here to put them in a EEL Battery version 6, which is coming up here on the channel very soon. Because the new version 6 of the Do-It-Yourself box has some interesting features I want to show you. Yeah, and I want to use these cells here, and I'm really keen to do capacity tests on these cells as well and put them in the battery and do a full battery capacity test. And then we can compare them nicely with the EVE cells and see if CATL is actually better or EVE is better. Yeah, and I got these cells here from a company who said these are B-grade CATL cells. Well, and looking at them, they look actually used. So the first thing you notice is they don't have a QR code anymore. The QR code has been wiped out, erased, grinded off. There's nothing anymore. They've got a sticker here with a unique number, but this is nothing like the QR code on the cell. So we don't have any information about these cells, when they have been manufactured, nothing like this. And you can also see they've got marks all over the place, yeah? Little scratches here, some leftover screws from potential labels or so. And someone has tried to clean them a little bit with a terrible success. The top plaque cover here is also a bit too short, so we can see the plank metal of the cell on both sides. And when you measure it, you get 0.7 volts and 2.5 volts on the other side, as we have seen with other lithium iron phosphate cells as well. So it is not like that the case is actually the positive or negative, it is somewhere in between. Yeah, and then we have some cells with heat shrink patches, like here. There's a big patch going along this side and one along this side. And here on the other side of the cell, there you can see another patch, just right in the middle. So I don't know what these cells went through. And there are scratches. There's some yellow paint here. So I'm not sure if these were some test cells from CATL or something. I really don't know. Yeah, so unfortunately we have only 15 of these CATL cells at the moment to build a 16S battery, which is not going to work quite well, right? But I may have a solution for that. And just to give you a bit of a perspective about the CATL 530 Ah cell, we have here the MB56 cell as a comparison. The CATL is a tiny bit higher, and obviously the MB56 is quite a bit longer. And yeah, you can see here, this is pretty much the same. There's not much difference. So I thought, until I get a replacement cell of the 530 Ah cell, we can just use the MB56 as a replacement for cell number 16, which then makes our 16S battery, right? Well, we have built Frankenstein batteries before with far more and completely different cells from different manufacturers, different capacities, everything different. I cannot see why an MB56 cell does not fit into this bunch of cells. But before we start building this amazing CB530 Ah battery as a 15+1S battery, we want to do a capacity test on these cells here and see how much capacity they actually have. So 530, do we get 530? Do we get more? Do we get less? Let's find out. Yeah, and interesting with these cells is that the positive terminal is almost square, while the negative is more rectangle shaped, but someone definitely has welded these M6 studs on top of the usually flat terminals. Now you can see the flat aluminium terminal of this cell. Also interesting, the negative terminal has some kind of copper core, and this is not like just a film. You probably can see the, no, you probably can't. You probably can see the thickness of this copper strip up here. I'm not sure what that is for, but the aluminium terminal is just welded on top of that. So welded left and right, and the copper goes underneath through this terminal to the other side. We also have the usual safety valve here, the QR code which doesn't exist anymore, and another QR code which doesn't do anything. The underside is completely isolated, which is good. So and here we just connect the positive and negative of the CATL EBC-A40L, the big Chinese cracker. Turn this one on. Ah, by the way, this is actually repaired here. Yeah, I'll make a separate video about the repair of this battery tester here. because in the past we had some issues with it and it disconnected from the computer and we didn't know why. So I got in contact with CATL and they were so kind and helped me out here. Video is coming. Alright, here we are in the good old EVE tester software. It feels so good. So COM9, we connect with the computer software to the tester, and we want to fully charge this battery first to 3.65 volts. So charging constant voltage with 40 amps to 3.65 volts, and then we do a cutoff at 0.05 C. I couldn't find any specifications for that because, as I said, CATL is not publishing any specifications for these cells. So you can only get information here and there online and put this all together. But we go with the standard 0.05 C, which is 26.5 amps. Yeah, 530 amps times 0.05 makes 26.5. So as always, we charge the battery to 3.65 volts with a constant current of 40 amps. And when we reach 3.65 volts, it holds the voltage constant and the current will taper off. Once the current is under 26.5 amps, we consider the cell to be fully 100% charged. I'm not sure how full these batteries are. This one is at 3.254 volts, so this could be everything between 20% and 60-70%. It may take a few hours, probably until tomorrow morning then. But yeah, let's get this started here. There we go, we can see the current going up to 40 amps. We are charging with constant 40 amps now, and the voltage is now creeping up slowly. But this will be a flat charge curve at the moment because we are already in the middle somewhere. So I don't know. Okay, we will see us at a later point in life again when this battery is fully charged, and then we do a full discharge test and see what we get. I'm really excited about these batteries here because this is something different we haven't used here in the off-grid garage. Before we only had, mainly we have EVE cells here, tested them and used them. We've got a couple of wrapped cells and also some lithium, exactly, the fake lithium cells I got from QSO, but I don't think these were actually real lithium cells. Yeah, but everything else basically was just EVE cells so far. So these are the first CATL cells we are testing here on the channel, and let's see how much ampere hours, how much energy we get out of these CB530 cells. We'll probably do maybe 2 or 3 of these batteries just randomly selected, and we do a full charge and discharge test on these just to make sure they are all consistent and we don't have any surprises. While this one is charging here, we can actually check the voltage and internal resistance of the remaining cells and see what we get. I'm actually only looking for an excuse to go back in the nice and cool battery and system room here. Alright, well, I prepare the camera. Guys, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has recently purchased these SPAT t-shirts here on my online shop. Yeah, a little bit of merch going on there. Well, quite a lot of people have bought this t-shirt recently, so thank you very, very much for that. So first person I'm seeing with one of my t-shirts out in the wild, you are invited for dinner or lunch then. Okay, we use the Fnirsi, the HRM10, an amazing internal resistance tester with recording functionality and stand. Okay, at this point of time I'm not really keen to record any of these data, but this is more to see what's going on. So let's see what we get. 3.26 volts and 0.2 milliohms. And next one, 3.26 volts and 0.21 milliohms. 3.26 and 0.21 milliohms. That's good. I like it. It's pretty consistent. And again, 3.26 volts, 0.2 millivolts. Just one more over here. Then I think we've got a good understanding what's going on. 3.26 volts and 0.21 milliohms. So all the same. Yeah, measuring the internal resistance is not really a big thing with these cells because this is just a snapshot of the current situation here in this state of charge and this temperature. As soon as you start using them, the internal resistance will change anyway. So it is more like testing all the batteries for internal resistance at this point of time now and make sure there's no faulty cell in this batch. Okay, just as a comparison here, we've got the MB56 cell. Yeah, there we go, 3.3 volts and 0.13, 0.12 I've seen. So a bit of a lower resistance here because it's a high capacity cell. Yeah, general rule of thumb is the higher the capacity of the cell is, the lower the internal resistance. Alright my friends, I'll talk to you again in a few hours when this cell is fully charged there. Fully charged the CB530, 436.9 ampere hours we could charge into it before it reached 3.65 volts and the current tapered off to 26.5 amps. It took almost 11 hours to fully charge this battery, wow. And look at the charge curve. It's interesting that we have this deep knee here at the bottom, but we started at 3.28 volts, yeah? So we are still seeing this increase here in voltage at the beginning. That's very interesting. So we are not seeing this curve starting with a flat line. It is actually increasing. And then we have the flat line here, 3.3 volts. Okay, but now comes the real test. We want to discharge this battery now. So we click here on discharge with constant current of 40 amps all the way down to 2.5 volts. So you can find specifications for this CATL 530 ampere hour battery that you can discharge this cell down to 2 volts, not 2.5, 2 volts. But this is only for temperatures under 0 degrees. Only a few specifications actually mention that. So we don't know exactly if this is true or not, but we have seen this with other cells before as well, that you can actually go under these 2.5 volts if you need to, if the battery is under 0 degrees Celsius. If this is true or not, I'm not 100% sure. I've never tried it myself. We don't get these temperatures down here, but we do a discharge test down to 2.5 volts and then call it. That's the end of the line. All right, without further ado, let's get started, and we see us again in 12 hours. Oh shit, this is late at night again. All right, see you tonight. And good morning and welcome back to... Be careful with the cables. Welcome back to the next morning. I've totally forgotten about this battery test last night, and then I somehow woke up in the middle of the night and said, the battery test has finished. But it doesn't matter, because the software runs and captures all the information. And we can easily check out these results the next morning, what we're doing right now. So here we can see the discharge curve of the CB530 from CATL. So we have started at 3.65 volts here discharging. You can see this very quick decline to about 3.3 volts here just after 7 ampere hours taken from this battery. Voltage is coming down 3.3 volts, and then we hold the voltage. And then something interesting happens. You can see we are here at 3.300 volts, yeah? And here the voltage actually rises again while we are discharging. It rises to 3.3. It's only 4 millivolt, but still remarkable that the voltage is rising for quite a while. 3.305. Yeah, just until roughly here. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. That's after 180 ampere hours taken from this battery. The voltage has risen just by 5 millivolts and then it dropped down. We have seen this before with other cells as well, and some people believe this is why these batteries are brand new and haven't been charged and discharged much, and all the chemistry inside, they still need to build up and settle down and whatever chemistry is doing inside these batteries. And that's why you have this little hump at the beginning of the discharge curve. So if this is true or not, I don't know, but not all the batteries are doing this. So could this be a brand new cell? Well, I don't know. It doesn't look like one, but from the discharge curve, it looks like something is going on at the beginning, and it may point to a brand new cell which has been charged less than 5 times or so. And then we hold the voltage here pretty much at 3.25 volts. This is the average voltage we are holding. Got a bit of a decline here at 3.3247, and then it goes down to 3.167, yeah? And this is just before this steep decline of the discharge curve of the voltage, 3.159, and then it goes down. And some people stop discharging at 3.1 volts here, yeah? So this is just at the beginning of the decline, 3.1 volts. We have discharged 519 ampere hours out of 530 rated for this battery, yeah. But how much do we have actually left? So let's have a look. 519 all the way down to 2.5 volts. There it is, 2510. And we have discharged the cell with 544 ampere hours. So from 519 to 25 ampere hours missing, yeah. So it's roughly 5% from 3.1 volts all the way down to 2.5, 5% left. So it's actually not a bad thing stopping at 3.1 volts. But if you have larger loads connected and you're operating the battery at a low state of charge and you turn on a motor or hot water system kicks on, or electric vehicle charging, or the compressor of a heat pump, yeah? So you have a little bit of a peak and your voltage of your low state of charge battery dips down a little bit. You can actually reach these 3.1 volt. A bit prematurely, I would say. It's just for a second or so, but there's still a lot of life left in the battery then, yeah? So that's why I always think 3.1 is a bit too early, and 3.0 volt would be a better choice, which is right here. There it is, 2.999 at 529. So this is 10 ampere hours more only, but it is actually in the steeper area of the discharge curve, and it gives you a more defined point when the battery are empty and when you stop discharging the battery then, yeah. There's not much life left either way, but when you have these loads, these electric motors or heat pumps kicking in, they may prematurely stop discharging your battery then. So it all depends a bit on what kind of system you have, but so 3.1 or 3 volts should be the end of discharging anyway. Then you have less than 5% left in this cell. So we have actually discharged 544.10 ampere hours. So that's 14.1 ampere hours more than the cell is rated for, yeah, 530. And this is roughly 2.7%. Which is nice, yeah? But if we compare this to the MB56 cell from EVE, yeah, we got 628 rated and we have 675 ampere hours discharged. So this was more like 7.5% more capacity than rated. 1.76 kilowatt hours out of one cell here is very impressive. And the average discharge voltage here was 3.25 volts. Perfect. So that is a very good result. We are doing now the charge test, which takes another 13 hours or so, so probably until tomorrow morning again. And then we have a look at the charge curve, if you can see any of these anomalies like we see in the discharge curve here as well. Well, I wish you a wonderful day, a good night's sleep, and we see us again tomorrow morning. Oh man, these long battery test videos, insane. Hello my friends, just like this we've got another morning, another result. And here we have a look at the charge curve of the CATL CB530. So we have started yesterday morning actually, at 2.7 volts. We can see the steep incline in voltage here up to 3.2 volts, then a bit of a plateau here, and then a small incline, and then we plateau basically out. We've got another incline here in the middle, which is normal, and then we've got another plateau until this point here, 3.39, we are coming in, 3.4 here, at 3.4 volts, we have already charged 526.7 ampere hours, yeah? It's 97% of the capacity already done at 3.4 volts. But we cannot stop charging at 3.4 volts because 3.4 would be around here, and it would also be around here. So you can see we are still in the fairly flat part of the charge curve here. So there's no defined point for 3.4 volts. And honestly, with lithium iron phosphate, it doesn't make sense to stop at 97%. You're not gaining any longevity of this cell, any more cycles or so if you do that. So, and then we go into the steeper area of the curve, and here at 3.45 volts, this is exactly here. That's where we found the battery is charged to like 99% already. And this is where it makes sense to stop, because now we've got a fairly high increase in voltage, yeah? We're going now in the steep section of this charge curve, and every 0.1 ampere hours makes a huge difference in voltage. So there's no point to charge to these areas unless you want to do a top balancing or something. Yeah, and then we finally hit the 3.65 volts here at 541.6 ampere hours. The cell starts absorbing for just a small period of time. And this absorption gains us another 0.2 ampere hours until the tester turned off, because we have tapered down to 26.5 amps with our charging current as well. So from the extensive testing we have done here on the channel in the past, we have determined that 3.45 volts is the maximum we charge the batteries to, and then we keep the voltage constant, let the current taper off. If the current goes close to 0 amps, then we are basically at 99.8% state of charge, because the degradation starts when you have high temperatures and also high voltages. So we are avoiding these high voltages above 3.45 volts, unless, as I said, you want to do a top balancing, you go to a 3.55 or 3.6 or something, and then the battery is fully top balanced when all the cells have reached it. But daily charging 3.45, and then after absorption time of half an hour, depending on your battery size, you can fall back to 3.35 volts, because this is the natural resting voltage. And I'm still receiving many emails from people who are concerned about their batteries being faulty, because the voltage actually declines after the battery has reached 3.65 volts. And after a day or two, the voltage goes down to 3.38, 3.4 volts, as we see here. And then it stays there and goes slowly down, and they think the battery is faulty. But this is the natural rest voltage of such a lithium iron phosphate cell. It is not staying at 3.65 volts or whatever you have charged to. Even if you absorb at this voltage, as soon as you take the charger away, the voltage will slightly drop to 3.35 to 3.4 volts. So we have charged 541 ampere hours and 1.8 kilowatt hours into this cell here. Alright, my friends, so what I'm going to do is I pick another two of these CB530 cells here and do a full capacity test on them, charge discharge curve. And then we've got 3 cells measured out of these 15, so we should have a good understanding what's going on. And we can also compare these curves quickly and see if there's any major difference, which I don't think it will be. But give me another 1.5 to maybe 3 days, I don't know yet, to test another 2 of these batteries, and then I'll back here on the channel with the final result of these capacity tests, and we see what we got. Hello my friends, and welcome back to the Off-Grid Garage here after a couple of days. So I was now able to fully charge and discharge to cycle 3 of these CATL CB530 cells. Down here we can see the results. Capacity 544.9, 545 and 544 again. So very, very consistent, which I'm very glad about. Up here we can see the discharge curves as well of all 3. I did a bit of an overlay here, so we've got different colors, but you can see they are very close together, which is very, very nice. So it looks like these cells are somehow matched, and they bring us a consistent capacity and also average voltage, 3.25 volts for all 3 cells. Perfect. I haven't only tested the CB530 cells, but I've also tested the CBC00 apparently. That's from CATL as well. This is a 314 ampere hour cell the guys from Hakadi have sent over for testing. And I have also tested one of the 16 CATL 280 ampere hour cells EEL Power has sent over. We will put these ones here into the EEL version 6 do-it-yourself case very soon. So expect a full and comprehensive review of this do-it-yourself box. And we not only want to have a look at the discharge capacity of these cells, but want to compare them to the EVE cells as well, because we have the MB31, which has 340 ampere hours rated as well. How is it called? The LF280K, the older series of these cells as well. So let's talk about the CATL 530 first. We have discharged this battery with 544, 545 and 544 ampere hours. So this gives us an advantage of about 2.8% more capacity than rated, which is great. If we compare this to the MB56 from EVE, which is a higher capacity cell, so it's not really 100% comparable, but this MB56 cell gives us 628 rated ampere hours. and we managed to get around 675 ampere hours out of the EVE cell, which gives us an advantage of 7.5% more capacity than rated. So this is almost 3 times more than the CATL cell provides. So big advantage here for the EVE cell. And if we look at the 314 ampere hour class, we've got the CATL cell here, and I managed to discharge this cell with 323.2 ampere hours. Yeah, this is again 2.9% more capacity than rated, which is fantastic. Looking at the EVE MB31, this is one from Yixiang, and I could discharge the MB31 with 330.6 ampere hours. And this gives us an advantage of 5.3%. So again, more than the CATL cell can deliver. And then the CATL 280 from EEL here, I could discharge this cell here with 303 ampere hours. So this is a really, really good result for the 280 ampere hour cell over 300 ampere hours. Yeah. And when we have a look at the EVE LF280K cell, I have a lot of results here. So I looked through all my battery tests and found some certified automotive grade cells, and they discharged with 294, 289 and 284, which is a bit less than 5%, while the CATL 280 gives us 8.2%. But I've also have some LF280K cells from Global Power, which measured with 302. So this is comparable with the CATL cell, and also 299 ampere hours. And then the last EVE delivery of LF280K cells from Yixiang delivered us 304, 303 and 303 ampere hours. So exactly the same as the CATL cell. But I think these days people are not buying the LF280K version anymore. They always go for the MB30, MB31 or even now for the MB56. Yeah. So this was just a bit of a comparison between CATL and EVE, how much extra capacity you get with these cells. And it looks like EVE is here the winner. This is just one random supplier of the CATL cells, Dongguan Lithium Energy Technology, whoever that is, and they are selling the CATL 530 ampere hours for $88 US. So that's actually a good price if you take 1 to 99 acres. Yeah, but we can also see that these cells here don't have any welded studs, so it might be that this reseller sells these CATL cells as they come from the factory, yeah, without any welded studs. And then you have lost basically, because then you cannot connect any bus bars without having a plasma welder. And that's why these resellers usually weld M6 or M8 studs onto these aluminium terminals of the cells. So it makes it far easier for the do-it-yourself community to connect any bus bars and balance cables and whatever. Yeah, but here, one battery, $88, not bad. Here's another reseller, Guangdong Jingying New Energy Co. They are selling the same battery for $98. That's the 530 ampere hours. And then the real capacity over 580 ampere hours for these cells, which we haven't seen with my cells here. Actually, this is just a screenshot here. I cannot look what the price is for that. But obviously they have done some testing and have sorted out these cells which are performing better and selling them to a higher price. I mean, fair enough. But here as well, flat terminals, yeah? There's nothing you can connect to it without a plasma welder. So pay attention if you buy these cells that they have welded studs on it. So and then we have a look at the MB56 cells. This is from our friends from QSO, for example, the MB56 with 628 ampere hours, which is in reality 680 ampere hours of real capacity actually, yeah. Because here at QSO, $108. So between $10 and $20 more in comparison to the CATL 530, but you're getting far more capacity out of these MB56. Here's another price for the MB56 Grade A. They are selling it for $98, so exactly the same price as for the CATL. So why would you go for a smaller capacity when you get a far higher capacity with the MB56 for the same price basically? So that's why I said the CATL 530 ampere hour cell is a good cell. It's not bad, but it seems to be a bit outdated now and overrun by the EVE MB56 cell, right? far more capacity, same price. And we're getting all the support from the manufacturers for these do-it-yourself kits for the MB56 cell, while for the CATL cells there is no do-it-yourself kit available out there. Because CATL is mainly selling to other manufacturers like BMW and Tesla and everything to use their cells in their vehicles, and only a small portion of their cells makes it actually into the do-it-yourself community for solar storage. So that's why most of the people go with EVE cells for home battery storage. Alright my friends, there you have it, the CATL CB530 here on the test bench. We've done the discharge test and also compared them to the other cells and also the EVE cells as far as it is comparable. As always, you find the information and data about all these cells down in the video description. I'm uploading all these test results to my website. There are already tons of battery tests available. You can download the CSV files coming from this tester here and also the graphs. There are BMP files you can look at which have also all the data on it. And you can also download the CKE tester software for your computer and import these CSV files to see the curve and study the voltage and capacity for each of the points. And the good thing is you don't need a tester for that. And also these information are completely free, of course. Alright my friends, leave your comments down below if you have CATL cells as well. What capacity did you get out of your cells? I'm really interested to hear that. And in one of the next videos we want to build this new Frankenstein battery there with the CB530 cells from CATL plus the one EVE MB56 cell. It will be very interesting how we managed to get the bus bars between all these cells and how this all works out. And of course we will do a capacity test on this battery as well then once it's fully charged. Because we should get around 27 kilowatt hours out of this battery pack then, so which is quite impressive again. Alright my friends, so far this video today. Thank you very, very much for all your amazing support. Especially thanks goes always to these people who are buying me a SPET, a solar panel alignment tool. And if you use such a tool yourself, make sure it is ice cold. Ah yes, some of you up there only need to put it outside. It is winter and bitter cold. As always, more videos are coming soon, they are already in the pipeline. If you want to, leave a nice comment, give me a like, and if you are new here, subscribe. Until the next video, you stay charged, stay safe, and thanks again for watching. See you then, bye bye.